This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites, like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies, like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee for your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is Cooper Koch. He is an actor from movies such as Less Than Zero and They Slash Them. But most recently, he plays Benjamin in Carter Smith's, former guest of the show, latest film, Swallowed. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We're really excited to chat with you. We're huge fans of Carter, and when we'd already interviewed him, and we're like, hey, who would be a good person to talk to help support your movie? And he's like, Cooper. So we're really excited. But on that note, though, can you tell our listeners a little bit about Swallowed in case they're not familiar with it?
Totally. So Swallowed basically centers around these two friends, Benjamin and Dom. Benjamin, who I play, is getting ready to move to Los Angeles to pursue porndom, which I just came up with. That's a combination word of porn star and stardom.
Hell yeah.
So he's going to go to LA to pursue that. And Dom wants to send him off to LA with some extra cash and basically gets them caught up in this drug trafficking scandal where they have to swallow these sacks of drugs, and they don't end up being your regular kind of drugs. So I guess I'll just leave you with that.
Yeah. Ugh.
So this is like a question I wanted to ask you earlier when I was talking to you, but I thought of it after. This is like wildly weird. Would you ever let the bug in this movie bite you? Like, would you try it?
I think so, yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, cool.
I'm down to clown.
I would too. I just thought about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm so curious. Anyway.
Yeah, I would totally try it. I mean, it wears off. It's not like you'd be like that forever.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
just don't want to
Cool.
have him inside you.
Definitely.
No, definitely
Definitely.
not.
But if one of those bugs, like they would lace the joint with it, I would definitely hit the joint.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? What was it like being a part of this weird world? Because like this isn't just like this is like a world that Carter has kind of created. And I love it's weird, it's creepy, and it's sexy. And what was that like kind of working with Carter to be a part of that world, like with Benjamin's character?
I mean, yeah, it was awesome. I didn't do too much thinking or preparing on like what the journey was going to be. I kind of just like created what Benjamin's history was with Dom and sort of his family and why he wanted to leave Maine. And then I sort of just let the story like unfold in front of me. And yeah, I mean, it's an honor to work with Carter. Like I loved working with him. And, I think he has such a fucked up, brilliant mind. Yeah, I mean, it was just super fun, and he was so collaborative and sort of like let me have ideas and let me explore and gave me the creative freedom to make my choices and have my voice be heard. So I really appreciated that.
Heck yeah. I'm also curious because I mean, no real spoilers, but Mark Patton is also involved with this. What was it like working with him in such a campy role for him in a way?
Yeah, he was freaking weird, we were all he, like he's scary, but it's like that kind of scary where it's like this, like, it's like this unpredictable kind of fear. Not like ooh, I'm scared and I'm like terrified of this monster. It was more of like, okay, this guy is fucked up. Like, oof, something is off about this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was kind of a recluse, though, to be honest, on set. He was a little more private, a little bit more reserved. I didn't get to spend like too much downtime with him. Like he kind of kept to himself, which maybe kind of worked for the part, just so we didn't really know too much about him. But I think the coolest thing about being like in something with him was that, he got shunned and shamed for his work in Nightmare on Elm Street, and he talks about that in Scream Queen. So I think it was so cool that I get to be this kind of queer actor in now time today. That's not really making any sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and not be sort of like shunned and shamed, and like I get to kind of like be an artist and work and like be proud, and I think that's cool though. Like I get to have this experience with him again, as a young actor. Yeah,
because like, okay, so I'm a little older. I'm 42, and so I've seen the way cinema has like pushed queerness into the closet, particularly in horror movies. It's always like a subtext, or even in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And so it's really cool now to see a lot of people unabashedly embracing queer horror. And I was kind of curious how that felt to be able to like make a movie like Swallow that is unabashedly queer and has some things in it that I don't think I've ever seen in a movie before.
Yeah, totally. I've never experienced some of these things either. Yeah, it's so awesome. And I again, yeah, it's such an honor to be a part of it. And I think I said this to Mary Beth earlier, but what is so awesome about it is that it's not putting a spotlight on the queer experience itself of coming out or being bullied or being shamed or being, like it's not necessarily about being gay. It just so happens that the characters like are gay. And there's like, if anything, it's the trope of like, having the unrequited love for your straight best friend. If there's any trope, it's that, but it doesn't even feel too tropey. Like it's just like, it's a story about love and friendship and survival. And, I love that. And I think it normalizes it. It normalizes being queer in film in a way that like, I don't know how many other films have done that before. So Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other thing I really liked. I'm glad you brought that up because I like that the horror of the element of it is not because of queerness. It's not, it's not a gay bashing, or it's not any of that kind of stuff. It is a horror movie that happens to have queer people in it, and I think that's really refreshing, while at the same time pushing boundaries for what I think transgressive horror can do.
Totally. I mean, that's kind of exactly what my other film does in a way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You've been in a couple horror movies. You were They Slash Them last year and Swallowed, but are you yourself a horror person? Like, are you did you grow up watching horror movies, anything like that?
I think when I first got into it with American Horror Story, like that was kind of, I didn't really I didn't have any horror films that I like particularly liked or watched. But I really loved American Horror Story when I was in.
Which season was it? Did you get on the ground level with the first season, or was there another season?
I was in college, and all of my friends were watching it, and I think it was the Freak Show season that they were on. So like that was the first. That was like the first bit that I saw, and I just loved the characters and the acting, and I thought it was so good. And then I went back and I watched it from the beginning, and I just loved it. I loved the way that the stories were told, and the characters and the actors and how everything tied together. And, I was I wasn't as scared. I was more sort of like drawn into the stories and the characters.
What's your favorite American Horror Story season? Do you have one?
I think I liked Asylum the best, probably.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that one. I love the characters. I love Lily Rabe especially. She's awesome.
She's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
So yeah, I think that's kind of like where I landed in terms of horror. Other than that, I was just too scared to see anything.
So you were a scaredy cat when it came to horror movies?
Yeah, I was a baby.
Yeah,
for sure.
Are you still scared? Are you still scared of horror movies?
I've been watching Last of Us. I've only watched the first two. Ooh. I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I can't watch it alone. Like I have to watch it with my brother. I'm too scared. And even when I'm watching with him, I'm like, he's like already seen it. Like he's ahead of me, and I'm like, tell me, okay, are they going to be okay? Are they going to be okay? Okay, tell me. Okay, they're not going to run into one, right? They're not going to run into one right here, right?
I love that.
I'm such a baby.
Do you remember like your first like introduction to horror movies? Did you watch them at all as a kid, or did you accidentally catch a couple of them besides the one we're going to talk about a little bit later?
So not besides the one we're going to talk about. Okay. I don't think so, but my mom does tell the story of how I went and saw like the first Spider-Man in theaters, and I was like terrified of Spider-Man.
Oh,
it's like not even a horror movie.
Yeah. I love that.
So I don't think so, unless except for the one that we're gonna get to.
Well, why not start talking about
let's do that.
So okay, Cooper, what film is your Scarred for Life pick that you brought with you today?
It is The First Final Destination.
Finally, we have been waiting for this moment. We are very excited because no one has brought this yet, and we've been waiting because we know it was somebody. So we're very excited that you brought this film to the show.
Well, yes.
Let me read a super quick, really hilarious synopsis from IMDb that is, just experience it together. Alex Browning is among a group of high school students readying themselves for a trip to Europe. When he suddenly has a premonition that their airplane will crash, he screams to warn the others, but instead he's thrown off the plane. But the plane actually crashes after they get off. Weeks later, one of the survivors mysteriously dies, and Alex realizes that things just got more complex.
Bum, bum, bum.
It honestly brings me right back. Like, I get, like, triggered.
Oh no. I love that. So to take us back, how old were you when you saw this? How did you see it? Why is this your Scarred for Life story? We want to hear it all.
Okay, so I think I had to have been in either 6th or 7th grade.
Okay.
And I was at my friend Tony Sokol's house.
Shout out to Tony.
Shout out to Tony Sokol. Haven't spoken to her in years. Anyways, I was with like a group of friends. It was like me and my twin brother, and must have been like 2 or 3 other friends or something. And we were just gonna like, they decided to turn on this movie. And we, had food or whatever. And I just remember like being in the back corner of the room, just like really having a lot of anxiety about it, like really, and just like really believing that like, whoa, something like this could happen. And I always like, I totally believe in the signs. Like I always am reading the signs of everything. Like if something goes wrong, that means that something else is going to go wrong. You know, like it just really hit me to my core. And I think also as a kid, I struggled a lot with death. Like I was very fearful of death and the unknown. And so just like a bunch of people dying also was like really freaky for me. And then I'll say, I think shortly after I saw the movie, well, that night I did not sleep. And I think I probably slept in my parents' bed with them. Because I was so just like scared. But we had a trip to go to my parents have a cottage in Canada. And we would go there for Thanksgiving, and we were flying back from Thanksgiving, and there was something wrong with my ticket. Like they couldn't scan my ticket for some reason. Like,
oh no.
I was like, this is my sign. This is my sign to not get on the plane because something's going to happen to the plane. I fully lost it. I like was so terrified, crying, like didn't want to get on the plane. And then my mom's like sitting next to me on the plane, like trying to calm me down. And like, I was so terrified. Yeah, that's it.
No.
That's my story.
So was going back to the night you saw it, was it the airplane situation that scared you? Was it the whole movie? What do you remember specific things that jumped out at you?
I think it was specifically the plane.
The plane.
It was specifically the beginning, and just him like having the premonition, like that was like a sign, you know, like that was like, yeah, I think it, and yeah, specifically the plane. And still, honestly, every time I get on a fucking plane, I'm like, how in the hell is this happening right now? No matter how many scientists or physicists explain this bullshit to me, I do not believe it. How in the hell is this possible that we are all hurtling through the air?
Every time. This is why I have to take edibles before I get on a plane now, because I just start thinking about it too hard, and then I start thinking about. So this is actually the first time I'd ever seen Final Destination because I was so scared of it.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, because this was the first time ever seeing it, like for this podcast, because I knew what it was. And I was already so scared of dying, of death. I have OCD. And when I say that, I mean like full blown, like terrible intrusive thoughts, like step on your crack, break your mother's back, like that. Like I couldn't walk home from school, like paralyzed of of potentially doing that to my mom. So this movie was like all of my intrusive thoughts like come to life, and I was like, I can't do that to myself. And I'm glad I didn't as a child, because this would have been like it would have been a life ruiner, I think, for planes. Like I already am nervous flying. Like this would have been a life ruiner if I saw
honestly. Well, you know, I'm kind of realizing right now this may be the reason for my OCD. Like,
oh, no.
What if this is why? Like, you know, I will think like if something goes wrong, like in the beginning of the day, like let's say like I don't know, like the smallest thing could happen. I like spill something, like or whatever. That means that the rest of that day, there's shit that's going to go down. That's going to be wrong. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, if one thing happens in the beginning of the day, that means that this day is going to shit. So maybe I have this movie to fault for that.
Quite possibly. So I'm curious though, Mary Beth. So you've never seen any of them then, I take it. Wow. Have you seen the rest of them?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
This is the only that was the only one I've seen. I couldn't go back and watch the other ones after that. No way.
You're like, fuck that. I got enough the first time.
Well, let me tell you, you're afraid of airplanes. Watch a second one, and you'll be afraid of driving on the interstate. Because like,
I'm more like, and I already like having just seen that clip as a child. And it's everyone. I know it's not just me. Like anything like that, like logs on a truck. I'm like, speed up, speed the fuck up, or like get away from it. Like absolutely not.
But it is that plane stuff. Have you guys seen Yellow Jackets?
Oh yeah. I love Yellow Jackets.
That one freaked me out too. That one
I
was
bet
really fucked up. Oh,
it is. It is
so good though.
That
I
is
like
really
that
fucked
show.
up.
I love Lost, and that fucked me up as a
Oh,
kid
yeah.
too with playing
Never
stuff.
watched
And like
Lost.
I've never. It's good up to a point. I was a diehard like
Oh, me
every
too.
Wednesday watching
That was the
Lost.
show. Yeah.
That
Mhm.
was the show, and
Water
I
cooler.
I have not watched it since I was younger, and I probably like a lot of it went over my head, but fuck. But yeah, I'm like not that scared of flying, but then I think about things like this, and I'm like, maybe I should be more scared of flying. Like maybe I
It's
should.
just like a mindset. It's like a mindset thing. Like you have to like really kind of not let your thoughts go there.
Yeah, so it's funny because I saw this opening night in the movie theater.
Oh no shit! Really?
The 2000 opening night. I was 19.
Oh shit!
Perfect target audience for it. Didn't really know much about it except all I knew is even less than than the IMDb plot synopsis. I knew guy has a premonition of an airplane and he gets off the plane and then it explodes. That's all I knew going into it. And so I remember sitting in the theater. It's in the very back of the theater, is packed full night. We're in the very back because at that point you couldn't reserve seats. It was just like you show up, you sit wherever you can.
Mm-hmm.
Back of the theater. And I remember thinking, okay, he's getting on the airplane. This is weird. When's he going to get off? And I was like, okay, he's not getting off. The airplane's taking off now. And I'm like, okay, wait, is it going to be on the return trip? Or is this like a setup and we're going to see the return trip when it explodes? What's happening here? And then the plane started exploding. I'm like, what is even happening? Because I didn't know that he was having like a premonition. I was like, why is this? And then when it flashes back to him, I was like, oh, hell no. And then 2 months later, I flew on a plane for the very first time that I remember. We flew on a plane when I was a little kid, but that was the very first time I remember. And I remember thinking, this plane's going to explode. This plane's going to explode. And the first thing I did when I sat down is I reached into like that seat tray to see if the thing would pop off like it did for Devon Sawa's character. Because I was like, if this comes off, I'm just getting off this plane. And I was a nervous ball of wreck the entire flight because I was so convinced that the plane was going to crash because of this freaking movie.
Oh,
this movie fucked up at like generations. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that Final Destination has ruined so many lives. It has though, because like even me not seeing it until now knew about the truck with the logs, and I knew about the plane. And it's like it has shaped generations of people to be terrified of airplanes. I would bet money on it that it has caused generational trauma for like multiple generations.
I'm finding this so funny.
Good. Thank you. It's fucked.
Well, what's funny to me though is that I don't really have any anxiety anymore about flying on a plane. Like my anxiety is about the actual like getting to the airport, getting through ticketing, making sure that I'm going to get their place, and then like if there's a layover, then I'm going to be able to get to the next gate in time. Like these are my anxiety, not necessarily the act of flying. However, I'm going to admit something. Every single time I get on a plane, since I saw this movie, I still check to see if that thing is working. I still do swear to God, to this day, 23 years later almost, I still check.
Wow.
I've never admitted that.
We are damaged as a society by this irreparable trauma to us all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I overcame my fear just because I lived in New York for 7 years because I went to college there. And so I flew back and forth from New York to LA so many times.
Oh, okay.
Home and then coming back. And so I kind of overcame my fear. However, the OCD thing for me is still real. Like I don't have anxiety with like getting to the airport or like flying or getting to the plane or whatever. I'm just like, okay, how can I get to the airport and get into that plane the most efficiently way possible, like through security? Like while I'm in the security line, I take everything off and put it in my backpack. Like I'm psychotic. I am the fastest person through that security line. Like I am not wasting anyone's time. Like, and I'm also the person behind the other person who's like, why aren't your shoes off yet?
Yeah.
Why aren't your belt off yet? Why haven't you taken?
Why are you waiting now to do this?
What are you doing?
Take your laptop out of your bag yet? Are you fucking kidding me? What are you new?
Exactly. Do it now and hold it in your hand. God damn it.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I am with you there, 100%.
Good. So we could all travel together to be fine.
We could. We would be just like very scary, but we would get to and from our location very efficiently, and we'd be at my gate for 2 hours with a coffee and on our phones. It would be incredible.
And I would make sure that the thing is working, that the
perfect
clasp is working.
You know what? I feel like now every time I get on the plane, I'm going to have to do that. Thanks, Terry.
Oh no. Oops. Scarred for life.
But I didn't really fully know that this movie had other deaths outside of the plane, I think. I didn't really know what to expect in Final Destination. I think I knew more about the other ones more than like the original with a baby Devon Sawa, and Ali Larter with incredible bangs. And by incredible I mean
Ali Larter's
just very, very like very 90s to early 2000s vibes.
Yes.
Incredible. I didn't realize that there was so many wild decapitations, not multiple decapitations, well, maybe multiple decapitations, but some incredible death sequences that like I knew Final Destination was known for, but perhaps my favorite is when the blonde curly girl is like saying, I am not going to live my life in fear, and just walks and immediately gets hit by a bus.
I do remember that. Oh my God, I do remember that.
It's just so mean. Like, this movie is so mean. And I know, like, that's the point, but just, like, the way that it sets... there are some deaths that are so elaborate. Like, the water came out of the toilet and he tripped and something got wrapped around his neck. But then there's just a chick getting hit by a bus. Like, it's an incredible...
Whose name is Terry. I'm going to add.
It's a sign. Terry, you're next.
So me in the theater and Terry like steps out and gets hit by the bus. The amount of screaming that came from my mouth at that point, because I had never seen anything like this. I'd never seen anything like that at all in cinema. And just her it's broad daylight. She's just walking across the street and then bang, there's blood on everybody. I'm like, what the fuck? Bye, Terry.
Terry, you better watch your back.
I know.
You have to outrun death.
Yeah, could be you.
Okay, so I was talking to Terry about this before because the logic of this movie also like is very wild. And again, I know that we don't need to have a full amount of logic, but we know that he's like we're cheating death here, and death is coming to collect. And we get that vibe. We see death in like reflections, and the first death post airplane, we see the water that came out of the toilet that tripped the dude go back into the toilet. But then we don't have that for much rest of the movie, where like the sword, like it's like something sneaky is like trying to hide that it killed a person. And I was like, wait a second, what the fuck is going on in these movies? Is it actually death, or is it like, what is going on? So this movie doesn't make any sense, and I know it's not supposed to, but I had to point out the plot hole.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. I remember also, I haven't seen it in a while. And the other thing that I remember is like the end where, aren't they in like some kind of shed and there's all these nails or something that like can refresh my memory?
Yeah. Alex hides because like he's convinced he's the next person to go. So he like goes to Ali Larter. Clear Rivers is her name.
Clear Rivers.
That's her character name.
Yes. Goes to her cabin and like safety proofs it. Uses a lot of duct tape. A lot of stuff to like try to protect himself. It sets up like an oil lamp in a plate on water so that if it falls over, it's not going to cause a fire. And then at one point, wind comes in, it hits like a fishing pole that opens up a door, and this like spikes come like jabbing through it at some point. But yes, he hides in a cabin that seems intent to kill him.
Does he die? I don't remember. He doesn't. He makes it out.
Not in the real ending of the film. There was an alternate ending that they filmed where he dies trying to save Clear, Ali Larter's character, and her impeccable bangs, and she's pregnant somehow, and with his baby, and names the baby Alex. They actually filmed that. There is like a deleted scene.
I'm glad that doesn't exist. I will say that is not the real ending of the movie. Because I do love the reveal of her blonde hair on the plane to Paris, and they're like, "We beat it," and then it's like, "No, you didn't."
No, you didn't.
But okay, you kind of went over a little bit about Todd's death. He's the first person to die post the airplane, and his death to this day still terrifies me, because it's the moment when he's in his bathroom, and there's like, what I love about this movie is that there's a lot of like setup in terms of like, oh my gosh, is he going to cut himself with a razor? Oh no, now he's using tweezers on his nose hair. Is he going to jam it up in his head? No, he gets his neck caught in like a clothesline in the tub and then ends up choking because the shampoo hits the bottom and his feet can't grab on, and he's just like choking there, and his eyes, the blood vessels burst in his eyes.
I can't handle the
right. I remember that now.
Bursting
Horrifying.
blood vessels,
yeah.
bursting eye blood vessels in movies is the worst thing. It feels so real when they're like, oh no, we're going to show you what it really happens to you when like you experience this, and you're like, it's too much.
It's just wrong.
It's the worst death. It still to this day is like the most, I think the cruelest part of this movie is that death, because it's a lot. And his feet curl at the very end. Ugh.
You guys have like a favorite death like in general, like on screen?
Ooh, shit.
Mine more recently is Jennifer Coolidge in White Lotus.
Yes.
Did you guys like that show?
I love that show.
Oh, me too.
I love White Lotus.
These gays are trying to murder me. I cannot do her voice.
These gays are trying to kill me. I'm trying.
So good.
There's so many, and I feel like it changes. And I'm thinking of some of the ones I really liked, especially like from more recently. There were some really good ones in X. I
haven't seen it yet. I need to see it.
You do. It's good. Brittany Snow gets fed to an alligator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so hot.
So
Jenna Ortega's moment in that really surprised me. I love a surprising death where you're not expecting it to happen, like Terry's death in Final Destination, or a year before when Samuel L. Jackson was in Deep Blue Sea, and he's giving like his "we gotta come together, we gotta save the day," and then the shark comes up and just eats him. Like those moments where it's like just boom out of
nowhere.
Mm-hmm. My favorite moments.
Yeah, love that.
And that's what I love about this, like Final Destination, is that it does both. It does like these elaborate setups that are like, okay, cool, like you like a Rube Goldberg machine of murder, of just like what is the weirdest, like cosmically fucked up way we could kill somebody, which I love. Like one day I want to meet people who just like sit in a room and write kills, like for Saw and for Final Destination. Like, what are those writing rooms like? You're just all sitting there, just like
so fun.
So fun. Just like a bunch of fucking horror freaks just being like, let's think of the most outrageous ways to die. Just like a bulletin board full of it. Ugh.
Love it.
Incredible.
What I do love about this movie, though, is a lot of the nods to horror that is in it, or the way, because like a lot of the characters are named after directors of horror films, but not necessarily like it's no Wes Craven or no, Carpenter or whatever. It's like George Wagner, who directed The Wolfman, Browning directed Dracula and Freaks, Luton, who's the producer of movies like Cat People, Hitchcock, Billy Hitchcock, his last name is Hitchcock. We have Shrek from Max Shrek, and Ween, that's the other FBI agent, was the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So there's a lot of like little jokes in there with that. But what I also really like is that they kind of, there's like a sense of foreboding to this movie that I still think is effective today, where there's like little bits of, you talk, Cooper, about like signs and stuff. Well, like the gate that they go to is gate 46. That's the number of class victims that were going to die. There's like a 666 on the cart that passes. The name of the title, Final Destination, is on his little ticket, his little bag tag that they put on there. The murals in the background at the airport all depict different ways that people are going to die in the movie. Like there's a lot of this type of stuff in here that they do to kind of like unsettle you without even realizing it. 180, which is the flight number, shows up multiple times throughout the entire movie. In fact, the sign at the very end that comes down and kills Carter, Kerr Smith's character, I think his name is Carter, has a 180 on it.
It is Carter.
So it's like there's all these like little moments that happen that if you're not even really paying attention, you won't notice it. But I think subconsciously is there to like kind of make you feel on edge. And I love that.
Yeah, same. I love that shit.
They also like built a lot of the sets here. There's like, so one of the death scenes is Miss Luton, the teacher. And I don't know if you remember this, Cooper, but she's like walking through her house with like a cup that is leaking vodka, and it ends up getting into
ice
like
cubes in it because it was too hot, and then it cracks with the ice and the vodka is leaking out behind her. I love it. Like it's so dumb.
It's so dumb, but
Anyway.
it goes in the computer explodes, sends a glass shard through her neck that
Oh,
ends up
I do
you
remember
remember
that.
that?
Now. Yes.
Yeah, and she ends up causing a fire in her kitchen, falling over, knives fall into her chest, the whole house explodes. They built that house. That house was built for this movie.
And they exploded it?
Yeah.
Wow.
The neighbors were very upset that they destroyed the house because they thought it was pretty.
What we do for cinema.
Right?
Things we do.
And you know what? One of the rare cases where perhaps it was worth it, because once again, you shaped a couple generations like trauma and fear and things that terrified them. So, sometimes blowing up a house. Imagine they didn't tell them that they were going to blow it up either, and they just happened. You were like, I'm sorry, was that planned? They're like, oh yeah, it's totally fine. Like, Jesus. Oh my God.
Also, as a 19-year-old, I was deeply closeted when I saw this movie, but good God, the amount of attractive men on display in this when I was like 19 years old watching this. I had a huge crush on Devon Sawa, which pretty much anyone that was interested.
Now.
Yeah, so like I'm pretty sure anyone my age that like was into dudes was like in love with Devon Sawa, from Casper to this. And then you have Kerr Smith, who's in it, who's a fine man. And then you had Sean William Scott, who like the year before was Stifler. I had such a huge crush on him.
Sean William Scott, like a pop-up, was my favorite because he's in so much shit from this era of like the early / mid 2000 comedy stuff. It was so funny to see him pop up because he has such like a distinct face, and I'm like, Stifler, not Stifler. Stifler? Is he Stifler?
He's Stifler.
And Stifler's mom.
Sean William Scott too.
Yeah, he's so hot.
Yeah. Devon's so cute.
Is it Jennifer Coolidge, Stifler's mom?
Yeah.
We're bringing it back.
Coolidge. Wait, no way. Is she really?
Yeah, she plays Stifler's mom in American Pie.
Oh my God, she does. I forgot about that.
So just a side note, when are we putting Jennifer Coolidge in a horror movie? Jennifer Coolidge needs to be in a horror movie.
Yes, please.
I think so too.
I mean, like White Lotus is almost there. So like she could do it.
Yeah. She totally.
Anyway.
But this was like everyone that was like really hot at that time, because it even had Brendan Fair in it, who was in Roswell. That was like a huge popular show at that time. Like just all the dudes, so much dudes. And
also, speaking of dudes, but not like, not the vein of dude you're talking about, Tony Todd's in this.
Tony Todd is the mortician.
And is creepy. And I was watching it. My husband walked by and he's like, "Is that fucking Tony Todd?" I'm like, there fucking is. Really is an incredible stacked cast of 90s, like mid to late 90s, early 2000s people.
Yeah.
What kind of like. So what I really enjoy about this movie is that when I watched it when I was a teenager, I was absolutely terrified. Now watching it, I kind of think it's funny.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I think it's a little darkly comedic in spots, and so I think it's interesting how like Mary Beth's like, I don't think so, but I don't know. There's just like the amount of like. I think there's an element of camp to it. Just the kind of the buildup of these deaths are a little silly. It's like it's kind of funny once you like know how things are going to fall apart and how things are gonna go. But the thing that really jumped out at me is that Devon Sawa's character is sort of like a Cassandra, and he like from Greek mythology, the sort of like the person that is telling, all this thing's going to happen and no one believes him. But he's also sort of like a trope in horror movies with like the kind of harbinger where like you have like in Friday the 13th movies, you have Crazy Ralph. You have the person that is like, you gotta not go up there, and no one listens to him. And this is a movie about that character because he's like, you gotta not listen to this. You gotta listen to me. And no one's listening to him, and everyone dies around him. And everyone keeps thinking he is the one that's killing everyone. I just think it's such a smart little twist on that.
Yeah, that is really smart. I agree.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very glad I finally got to watch this movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
What'd you think overall, Mary Beth?
I really enjoyed it. I was it's always impressive to see how like practical effects hold up, like effects and those kinds of things hold up over time. And like, 2000, it was both forever ago and not that long ago at all. So it's just like really cool to see how it was all done so practically and how it looks so good. Like that fucking airplane premonition, like burning faces, people getting ripped out of the plane. I was like, it's terrifying. It is still terrifying. Like, even though I think I agree with you, there are like kind of campy, funny moments at a point because you're like, okay, this is like ridiculous ways to die. That initial premonition is really fucking scary. Like, it is so well done. And even with some of the things being more ridiculous, I think they still make it so gruesome that you kind of want to laugh. Like, you're here to see the crazy kills, and we know you want to see that, but also it is still fucked up what's happening here. So I think they hit that balance really well of being like, it's funny, but also like, no, this is like really awful and violent.
And speaking of the airplane, like filmed actual on a sound stage with a gimbal that was moving the plane.
They actually blew up an airplane.
They had like an arm actually pulling people out that they like
Jesus Christ,
digitally removed afterwards, but they had something pulling out all the seats when people would go flying out of it and digitally erased it.
Wow.
Something amusement park ride, like at Universal Studios or something. That would be like live the Final Destination premonition.
Like, that would be really scary.
It would be.
It would be so scary.
I'm like, you guys are kind of making me want to rewatch the film, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of scared.
I believe in you.
I'm sure it would be fine.
It's really good.
I'll just get Tony Sokol and
call her up. Be like, hello.
Call her up. Be like, Tony, we haven't spoken since we were in middle school, but I think it's time to watch Final Destination.
Full circle. Just comes full circle.
So do you remember, was everyone else terrified of the movie when you saw it? Or do you remember it all? No?
I think it was just me.
Just you?
Not even my brother. I don't think, I'm seeing him tonight, so I'm going to ask him.
Is he also scared of horror movies? Does he watch them or?
No, he's an editor. He's a film and TV editor.
Cool.
So I think he's always kind of had like the technical eye and like doesn't really let things get to. Yeah, he loves X. He loved X this year. He loves The Witch. Like he's super.
Gotcha.
He's way more into it than I am. And he's working on Only Murders in the Building right now. Kind of the opposite of horror, but
I love that show. I'm obsessed with that show. Yeah, I love it. God.
You should be really excited. It's looking really good. I've seen some little snippets.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
What kills me, though, one little last bit of trivia. What kills me about this is that this originally started as an X-Files episode.
What?
Yeah. So the writer, Jeffrey Reddick, who is also a queer man, wrote this initially as a spec script to be an X-Files episode. And a friend at New Line said, no, this needs to be a movie.
Wow.
And so this almost was an X-Files episode at one point.
Wow. How crazy!
And so we got a massive franchise out of it. Good for him.
Yeah, and he tormented and scarred a lot of people for life.
Absolutely.
Kind of plug that in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. Well, do we want to wrap up and give Final Destination our rating out of 5?
Sounds good.
All right, Terry, you're up. First, how many Ali Larder's bangs of 5 do you give Final Destination?
I love Ali Larder. she was having a great time at this because she was in what is that, Varsity Blue, just like a year before, and then she was in this. I love her, but yeah, I think this movie. Every time I watch this movie, I have like a different appreciation for it, and this time, I really just enjoyed the insanity of the effects and the way that the deaths were just sort of came together. So I'm honestly, for me, I think this is a 4 Ali Larder's bangs out of 5 for me. What about you, Mary Beth?
It is also going to be 4 Ali Larder bangs for me. I kind of explained before we jumped in here, before we got here, about why I liked it so much. But it's just like such an incredible capsule of like changing horror, like what horror was going, like changing towards and moving towards. And also it's just like fucking fun. Mm-hmm. It's super creative. It's wild. It's like, it's really entertaining. It's got a hot young cast. I don't know. It's just like the perfect 2000s movie, I feel like. And I love that for it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I finally watched it. And it holds up. I think it holds up really well too. Like, even though it is a very 2000, like year 2000 movie and like aesthetic and everything, I still think it holds up regardless of that. And I also just want to give a shout out to the John Denver needle drop literally in this movie. That is a song my mom played for me all the time growing up, Rocky Mountain High. So it was like incredible.
I do wonder if people thought it was a little insensitive, because I think he passed away. I think because he died in an airplane crash, which is why it has like importance to this. But I think he died.
Think about that.
I think he died in 97. So like 96 or 97. So like 3 or 4 years before this movie came out. I'm kind of curious if people thought that was insensitive, but.
Oh no, probably, but that's fine. Yeah. Is Cooper frozen for you?
Oh yeah, he is.
Speaking of Devon Sawa, oh man, is he hot in the new season of Chucky?
Oh, he really is.
Daddy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There we go. I don't know what happened.
Welcome back.
Weird. Welcome back.
Thank you. I don't know. Is that a sign?
I hope not.
Oh shit. Oh no. I was about to throw to you, Cooper, because you have the final word. How many Ali Larter bangs out of 5 do you give Final Destination?
I'll stick with you guys and go 4 out of 5. I mean, we love the bangs, and it did scar me for life. So, I think I'll just take it. It's not 5 out of 5. It's also not 5 out of 5 because it scarred me for life.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Very fair.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Cooper, for joining us to talk about Final Destination and having Mary Beth see it for the first time. That's awesome. I didn't even know that. Where are you on social media? Where can our listeners find you? And what do you have that you can talk about or that you want to share? The floor is yours.
I'm not on Instagram, but I am on TikTok.
Okay.
You can find me on TikTok. I have some fun on there sometimes. I go see Swallowed. It comes out on February 14th, digital on demand. And enjoy that.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be in another movie that isn't a queer horror film, and I can change it up a little bit.
Oh yeah. What's drop your at? What's your at TikTok?
I think it's Coops JK.
Okay.
Do you get it?
Cool.
Yeah, I do. I love
it's
that.
Like Coops, just kidding, but Coops.
Yeah.
Jokes are always funnier when you have to explain them.
Yeah, I love it. It's my absolute favorite. It's my favorite form of comedy.
Yeah, me too.
Well, okay, listeners, we want to hear from you. What was your experience with Final Destination? You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, join us on Patreon.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Somebody please think of the children. Somebody please think of the children. Somebody please think of the children.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.